The Proceeds of Crime Act, POCA. It's a key pillar in combating financial crime. But what do you know about it and how it works? Today we're demystifying POCA, explaining why it matters and how it protects Jamaica's financial system. All that and more on this episode of Follow the Money. Welcome to Follow the Money, the podcast that unpacks the world of financial crime and how it affects us here in Jamaica. This podcast is a production of the Financial Investigations Division, the FID. I'm your host, Robian Williams, and we focus today on POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, the act behind all the seizures, the forfeitures, the legal tool to disrupt criminal enterprises. And with me here is Charmaine Newsome. She is the Director of Internal Investigations at the FID. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here, Ms. Newsome.
Thank you so much for having us, Robian.
How are you today?
I am well.
Well, indeed. I am too well and looking forward to your wealth of knowledge and all you have to tell us about POCA.
Indeed.
So before we dive into the act, do tell us in plain language, what is POCA and what problems were it really designed to solve?
As you said, Robian, the POCA is the Proceeds of Crime Act, which was enacted in 2007, May 2007 by Parliament. It was designed with the passage of POCA. It abolished the Drug Offences Act because there was in fact a Drug Offences Act to go after criminals. But what it really didn't have much teeth apart from sending persons to prison. They would go to prison and still keep their assets. So when they come out, they have all the assets.
They have access to all their assets still. So now POCA gives way to forfeitures for you to retain all of those assets and take the money out of crime.
Indeed.
POCA is often summarized as crime must not pay. What legal principles in the act make that real?
Well, the Proceeds of Crime Act is divided into several sections. You have instances where we have cash forfeitures, which is, for example, they may go out and do a seize and search and cash is found from an individual and they are unable to indicate or provide a sufficient explanation as to the source of this cash. We also have the section that deals with civil recovery, which we call non-conviction based tool. What that does is, for example, an individual is criminally charged with an offense, and for some reason he may have absconded during the trial, he may have been found not guilty, he may have died. The legislation allows us to use civil recovery because the focus of civil recovery is not against the individual or the person, but against property.
Indeed.
We also have what is called a restraint order. An individual or individuals is charged, and what will happen is during the criminal investigation, we have our legal team that seeks a restraint order to restrain assets. And when we talk about assets, we're talking about house, car, land, cash. So anything that is recognized as asset can be restrained, and the restraint order is in place to ensure that in the event of a conviction or any kind of order that the court may make, these assets will be available for to satisfy any order that the court may make.
Their evidence.
Yes.
Indeed. What misconceptions about POCA do you often encounter?
Well, one of the biggest things we encounter is, for example, persons where cash is seized, as I previously said, pursuant to Section 79 of the Proceeds of Crime Act. There are persons who, there's this misnomer that I can't walk with $100,000 because if I am found with $100,000, the police or the investigating person is going to seize that. That's a misnomer. Yes. All the legislation is saying If you are found with this money, you are to provide an explanation as to how you came by this money. Another thing in relation to, say, civil recovery, persons are of the belief that the application that is sought is against person. And as I said earlier, it is against the property. So whether you're alive or dead,
yes,
we can go for civil recovery.
Assets.
Because it is an asset-based order. We also have instances where there is the issue of money laundering.
Yes.
And that is our big game in how POCA works at the moment. So you have money laundering, and persons believe that if they buy this $50 million home or house and they put it in their sister's name, the arm of POCA, it is now out of the reach of POCA. That is not so. Because based on our investigation, we can also trace the source of these assets. For example, persons made the silly mistake of putting a $50 million property in their mother's name.
Yes.
Their mother is 80 years old. She may have been working as a housekeeper.
That raises some red flags there.
Indeed. So these are some of the things that persons are of the misconception that this is so. But there are several parts of the Proceeds of Crime Act that allows us to investigate, recover, and realize properties or assets.
Indeed.
In relation to a particular order, there are orders that are made. Say, for example, the person is convicted and we make an application for a pecuniary, what we call a pecuniary penalty order.
Tell me what that is.
A pecuniary penalty order, if someone is convicted and the court may order a particular sum to be paid,
yes,
which is deemed to be his benefit. There is also the forfeiture order, which, because we have identified these assets which are subject to the restraint order,
yes,
we can now go and ask the court to determine the person's benefit and for a forfeiture order to be made for those assets to be forfeited to the Crown. So when it comes to criminal conviction-based order, the assets are forfeited to the Crown.
Yes.
When it comes to civil recovery matters, those assets are for the benefit and use of the Assets Recovery Agency. So we are allowed, the legislation provides that it can go back into crime fighting,
yes,
education, health.
Yes.
So it is not that it sits in our account and we are able
to
spend willy-nilly because we
yes,
got this. No, there are certain provisions pursuant to the legislation that is made, which we have to comply with.
Indeed. I want to take you back to walking around with a certain amount of cash. Now, how much is too much to walk around with that won't get us into trouble?
The reality is, if you're walking with over $100,000 and you're stopped by the police and you are asked to account for it, the police, if satisfied, can say, all right, feel free, go ahead. So there is no minimum or maximum. But what we are saying is, for example, why are you walk with $1 million in cash?
Yeah.
And there's a banking system that can take care of this. You can deposit the money in the bank, you can transfer to persons, you can draw.
There are safer
checks.
ways.
Indeed, and therefore, so there is not a minimum or a maximum, but the critical thing, you must be able to give a reasonable explanation to the officer as to why this is not deemed to be recoverable property or property intended for criminal use.
Indeed. So POCA strengthens investigations and prosecutions. What are the main tools POCA gives to investigators and prosecutors?
As I said earlier, it is divided into various sections. So we have the forfeiture and pecuniary penalty order. That is one section, which is conviction based.
Yes.
So the person is convicted, they are committed to the circuit court, and what we call a benefit hearing is is done, and the court make the determination as to how much the person would have benefit. Of course, the asset recovery agency would have prepared affidavits to demonstrate to the court that this person would have benefit from drug offense or some unlawful conduct, money laundering, and has been convicted. Because when it comes to that conviction, as I said, as the name suggests, you have to be convicted.
Yes.
Then you also have the restraint applications, which maintains the status quo of assets until either the matter is completed.
Yes.
You also have the investigative tools, which, for example, they are like disclosure orders, account monitoring orders. You have several orders, customer information order.
Yeah.
But like, for example, the disclosure order and the customer information order are directed to financial institutions seeking information.
Yeah.
Then you have the money laundering aspect of it. So as long as a money laundering investigations is ongoing, you can also now obtain a restraint order to restrain these assets.
Indeed.
We do local, but we also have the assistance of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, who can, by way of mutual legal assistance, to go to our overseas or international partners to get assistance.
What I want to ask you, are these matters, when they go before the courts, are they open to the public, like a reporter or journalist can go and observe what's happening, or is...
To the best of my knowledge, they are open to the public, as long as the court that you are appearing for agrees.
Okay. I want for you to tell me, how does POCA collaborate, work with other agencies, JCF, MOCA, Customs, because we know that it's hotly contested at this point in time that the FID and its arresting powers, that is hotly contested. How do you collaborate with the law enforcement?
Well, as it relates to JCF, we also have what is they call the Constabulary Financial Unit that physically sits at our office.
Yes.
But this is staffed by solely police officers.
Yes.
So they have the powers of arrest. Everything that is bestowed upon a police officer, they are not a part of the FID.
Okay.
So that is how we coordinate and collaborate with JCF. They will also provide information and ask for our assistance when it comes to these investigative tools. Then, as it relates to Jamaica Customs also deals with the Proceeds of Crime Act.
Yeah.
So they have the same power in terms of cash seizure matters. There are instances where they too will ask for our assistance and vice versa.
Yeah.
When cash is seized, it is placed in an interest-bearing account as per the legislation. So you find that when officers of the JCF or Jamaica Customs, when cash is seized, it is deposited into what is called the Assets Recovery Interest-Bearing Account. So we have a very close collaboration there.
With the Jamaica Customs, now I know of a case, FID and Jamaica Customs, where persons were stopped at the airport, right? How much is too much to travel with in terms of when does FID get called in?
So remember now, Robian, when you're going through the airport or coming in, going out, you're asked to complete a C5.
Yes.
Which is a passenger declaration. On that form, it states, are you traveling with cash in excess of US $10,000?
Right.
Or the equivalent?
Yes.
You know that you are traveling with $100,000 US dollar. All that is required is for you to
fill out the form and say that, declare
that this is what. If it means that customs now need to make to ask you questions relating to similarly the source of the cash, what is the purpose, why do you need to be walking with that cash, and if you can't account for it, then it will be seized.
Red flag, right
there. Red flag. Recall, I think last week and maybe the week before, where the conviction of the money mules,
Money, yes.
because they fail to declare, and that is the critical point, failure to declare.
Right. What does an effective POCA case file looks like? What makes it airtight? I mean, in simple terms, what makes it airtight for the court?
Well, we must have our witnesses in place. There are instances where witnesses are not available for whatever reason, but there are provisions in other legislation which allows us to tender hearsay evidence
and statements.
Statements. You might find that the person is overseas, so we ask for make an application for them to appear via video
remotely,
link remotely. So you must have your witnesses in place. You will have the various affidavits and the exhibits. So in preparing a case file, we prepare an affidavit in support of whatever application. So I'm going to use the example of the restraint order.
Yeah.
If it is you're making an application for a restraint order, it must be supported by an affidavit with exhibits. You must have an with what is called a without notice application, and then you would file the draft orders as well.
Okay.
So the court, in deciding, must now go through your affidavit, and it must be satisfied that the application you are making is a reasonable one
and can amount to a viable prosecution.
And can amount to a viable prosecution. Although in making a restraint application, a restraint order is an interim order.
Oh.
So I cannot obtain, or we cannot obtain a restraint order and then say, okay, we have restraint order, so we're going to sell the house, sell the car. No. The order that we get allows for us to inspect the property and attaches certain orders to the owner in terms of insurance and proper maintenance.
Okay.
The motor vehicles must be inspected. The only thing that there is a hold on your bank accounts.
Okay.
And even that, the legislation provides that reasonable living expenses must be provided to the individual.
Okay.
So our responsibility is to ensure that all that is required is present at the time of making our application, so the court can determine on a balance of probability if this order should be granted.
You would agree with me that POCA has a lot of teeth.
Indeed. Indeed.
How let's talk about people and businesses and how they often slip up not knowing. What are some common unintended breaches you see from day to day, everyday people, businesses? Things like letting someone borrow their bank account. Hold this money for me, save this money, keep this money for me.
It is unfortunate when persons find themselves in a position like this. Unknowingly. Because if you, as an adult, somebody approaches you, sometimes it's this person you do not know, and they will say to you, I'm asking you to allow a deposit of $100,000 to be made to your account because something is wrong with my account. And I can't get access to it and I need the money now. And then the person now says, and also I'm going to offer you $10,000 from it. We have a duty to now ask questions before we do things like these. And what the law speaks of or refer to sometimes these persons, they operate with willful blindness.
Yes.
They know that this is
it sounds too good to be true.
And yet still they are going ahead. It matters not to the FID whether it is knowing or unknowing. As long as you are a facilitator, then you are part of this investigation and can be named as a defendant and can or a respondent. It is now for you to satisfy the court to say,
you didn't know
I didn't know. I did not know. But if somebody comes to you today, tomorrow, and the next day, and asking you to allow them to deposit substantial amount of cash, you need to think.
Yeah. The onus is on us.
Yes.
Indeed. Where do businesses, though, most often slip up? Where do they get into trouble?
Robian, I'm not sure if it is slip up, There's a legislation. For example, business persons. The law indicates that there should be no transaction, cash transaction over $1 million. You find that some persons, what they do is to splinter that transaction. So they say, all right, take 300,000 today, tomorrow, and the following day. And these are things that the provisions is there for in POCA to say,
Yes.
if it is you do such an act, then you shall be prosecuted. That is criminally. The legislation is clear. You can deposit the money in the bank account. You can request checks, and you don't need to be talking about splintering. So some persons, I'm going to say, in the minority, may not be aware of that portion of the legislation, but it is strict liability.
Yeah.
So the minute you are found doing such an offense or committing such an offense, then the POCA will go after you.
Indeed. Let's talk about poor record keeping. We're on the topic of businesses and how they slip up. Poor record keeping is often, or may be, something that they may be guilty of, failing to file the STRS, the TTRS, or not training staff. Talk to me about that.
Well, because of our position in terms of anti-money laundering, I'm just going to give you a little background. We are a part of the Caribbean Action Task Force. We are members. You will recall that up to 2000 between 2020 and 2024, we were on the grey list.
Yes.
So that impacted Jamaica, not you and I only,
Jamaica,
but Jamaica entirely.
Financial-wise, yes.
Indeed. So it is. We were able to get off the grey list last year because of the tightening of the money laundering regime.
Yes.
If it is, you know as a business person that you are required to keep certain records.
Yes.
You have an obligation. For some records, it's a maximum of 7 years. You are to keep those records, because if for any reason your company is being investigated and you are asked to provide your sales records, your invoices, and you are unable to do so, that has a serious implication for you. In relation to the STRs are suspicious transaction report.
Yes.
These are mainly filed by financial institutions, and that is their obligation to do so. Then there is also, because as long as they believe they have this customer, the customer was only depositing $15,000 per week.
And after a while,
and then after a while,
start depositing all 100,000
and more.
Yes.
And the frequency. So that creates some level of suspicion for the financial institution. So if they come into such activity, they have a responsibility to file it with the FID, the competent authority. The threshold transaction report is now goes above that, in that you are required to, when we talk about the same $1 million.
Yes.
So any transaction that is seen over $1 million, they have to report it. However, bear in mind that you will have some businesses, say a motor vehicle, one of those older type companies.
Yes.
So they have motor cars well in excess of $1 million. So the bank can also look at it and know this is a usual and reasonable deposit for the entity.
Yes.
Because based on the nature and type of business they do. But at times it is not for them to determine.
Yes.
It goes to what we call, which is a part of the FID, the Financial Intelligence Unit. And they are the keepers of those records. It's not for the public, it's not for internal use, but just specifically for their eyes only. and they will make a determination and communicate with the authorized officer of the respective entity to know what's the next step.
Indeed.
And at times, the outside of the STR or the TTR, there is open communication with various financial institutions and entities to say, this has happened.
And communication is necessary. Cross-border communication is important, because that's how you really nab the criminals and really take the money out of crime.
Indeed.
If there's one change individuals and businesses could implement tomorrow to reduce POCA risk, what would it be?
I would say to them, and this is really, it doesn't take much, be more astute.
Yes.
In your dealings with customers, how you maintain your records, even your employees. So it is be more astute in business all around, and which includes the customers, the employees, and your just in general.
Yes.
Because, for example, if it is that you are a auto parts dealer,
yes,
and a client comes to you and says, I'd like to get this part, this part, this part. And when I provide him with an invoice, I say to him, the cost of the items are 1.5 million. And you know that you ought not to take cash in excess of 999,999.
Okay.
You do not now accept it. I know times are hard, businesses want to grow.
Yes.
But to the peril, if you take that, if prosecuted, you are going to lose way more than what you would have gained.
Weigh the pros and the cons.
Weigh the pros and the cons. Just be astute. Be careful. If it is too good to be true, it's likely not true. So when somebody call and say to you, there was a raffle and you have won a motor car and $500,000, $5 million US. However, in order to get these winnings,
you have to
pay. The question you should ask now, why don't you take the money?
From the money. You have money for me. You have money giving me. Take the fee from it. That makes sense.
That's it. So these are some of the things. It doesn't take anything that will cost. It just intentional thinking about what you're doing.
And knowledge. Public education.
And that is a part of what we are trying to do.
Right.
No, we are doing to ensure that the public is aware as much as possible of the do's and the don'ts. We know that POCA is a draconian legislation, but we have a responsibility in public education, and that is where our thrust is right now.
Indeed. You mentioned us coming off of the grey list just last year. How does POCA really protect Jamaica's financial system? These little cases that people think that, they're one-off and they don't necessarily affect the country. How does POCA really do an overall of protecting the financial system here? All
right, remember we spoke about earlier, one of the tools or one of the section or provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Act is to deal with money laundering.
Yes.
The prosecution of money laundering offenses right now is done by the Office of the DPP. However, it is in conjunction with the Assets Recovery Agency.
Yes.
If a person is charged and the trial begins, we are notified because there is some action that we would need now to take to commit the person, if convicted, and to obtain forfeiture orders or pecuniary penalty orders. What the FID through POCA can do is to ensure that we prosecute, and we can't say all our convictions about money laundering will be successful, but at least we are demonstrating that we are actively participating in the scourge and the fight against crime. So even with civil recovery matters, that is important, because a lot of times it's because the individual is not convicted. And if we obtain a civil recovery order, it demonstrates also that yes, we failed in, or we were unsuccessful for whatever reason in a conviction,
Yes.
but we know that these assets is the proceeds of a particular offense. And therefore, we are going to pursue the holders, the property being held by these individuals. So if we are unsuccessful in one limb, which is post-conviction, we can still use the civil recovery to get the assets.
Indeed, indeed. All right. So I hear you say conviction, forfeiture, seizure, and all of that. The penalties in terms of prison time. Talk to me about that.
All right. In relation to those post-conviction orders, which we call forfeiture or pecuniary penalty orders, if it is that the person is convicted, and let us say it is the offense drugs, and they are convicted and they get custodial sentences. So let us say 5 years imprisonment. And we now make an application for a forfeiture order or pecuniary penalty order. Even while the person is serving the sentence, they need to attend court to deal with the application of the FID.
Oh.
So it is not going to court and the matter ends there.
There's the after.
Which is called the post-conviction.
Okay.
So in addition to being imprisoned based on the criminal offense of a drug conviction, then you need to speak to us about the assets that you hold, which we believe were obtained by illegally through your drug run-ins.
Okay. I did not know that. I did not know that at all. Where can businesses, we just talk about public education, where can businesses, citizens like ourselves, find these information, the authoritative guidance to really not be in breach of POCA?
Well, we have a website. I don't have the.
I'll definitely get that. Yes.
We have our website that you can use to provide information. We have our contact number 928514128. We are available. We have our.
Do you guys have like workshops or even go to places, go to the different work businesses or so, like on the road campaign?
All right. Yes. For example, last year, and I think the prior year when the JCF was having their big demonstration at the
National
Stadium.
Yes.
We had a booth there.
Nice.
Targeting the school children because we have to start.
Very, very young. You have to start right there.
Yes. So we attended that. There are times when we go to various target groups in financial sector.
Yes.
JCF, clerk of the courts, and we also do our own internal, because at times we find it important that when we have one-on-one with individuals, we must also use the opportunity to educate.
Right.
So yes, we have a blast that we use. Persons can find us online.
Yes. The different social media platforms and all.
That's it. And if it is that we'd like to say that we ask you, we implore you, if you see something, you know something, and you hear something, make a report on one of the platforms that we have. It is a confidential platform. You have nothing to fear, but it is not a you and me thing.
Yes.
It is Jamaica. And we have to put all our support in ensuring that Jamaica is a safe place to live and to learn.
As usual, we've learned quite a bit today. The Proceeds of Crime Act should be much clearer for you. I know it's clearer for me. So ensure you stay on the right side of the law. Ms. Newsome, thank you so much. Your wealth of knowledge is impressive. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And you've shared a lot.
A
lot of the essentials, right?
happy to have gotten the opportunity to do so.
Thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you suspect any type of financial crime or if you need more information on POCA, call the FID hotline at 876-928-5141-8. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, at the FID. I'm your host, Robian Williams. Join us next time for Follow the Money.